All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Whateva podcast. Today we have Gene. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, I want to talk a little bit about you, Gene, actually, because you are actually a professional stand-up comedian, as far as I know.
Professional is a very generous term. I think that would imply I get paid. And
Oh, no.
currently I don't get paid. I get paid in exposure.
Oh, okay.
As many artists these days.
A starving artist, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I do perform regularly at various open mics. Currently I'm in that open micer stage and hoping to branch out more. So.
Okay, where at? Like, where do you record at?
I do a lot of pubs usually. I find that in Ithaca.
Okay.
They've got a lot of open mics there. I do a lot of smaller ones when I'm testing the material, and I'd like to move on to bigger ones when I finally got them down. Is the method I've been utilizing, and yeah, that's what I do. Maybe in the future, I don't know if I'll move to YouTube because YouTube doesn't really cater very well to creators.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially recently. Yeah, with the Adpocalypse like 4 now. I'm pretty sure
they weren't catering very well years ago. So
yeah,
now here we are, and maybe I'm just kind of keeping my eyes out for a better platform. Not a big fan of Twitter or Facebook. So hence is why I've kind of staved off of creating a presence there. If I had, then I'd be plugging that right now. But
right.
but just kind of making some big decisions because obviously we're in a very quickly changing time of social media. So,
do you perform at Rico's? I know they have like an open mic thing every so often.
At Rico's?
Yeah, the Rico's down on Market Street.
I do not, but probably I haven't seen it yet. But that'd be something I'd consider.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just music, but I think it said something about like open microphones, so I'd have to let you know. 'Cause I go to Rico's often. They have good pizza there. So today's episode's gonna be a little bit different because me and Gene have been talking about a few things for a few days now.
Yes.
We wanted to talk about a certain movie.
Yeah.
Now, heads up, because this is gonna be like the Moviecast.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, and there's a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't watched, we're gonna say the movies that we're talking about before we talk about them, obviously. Mm-hmm. So if you want to watch this movie and said movies, then just click ahead a little bit. And yeah, so the movie we've been talking about the most is actually the Joker movie that came out recently. And I think that we are both in agreement that it is probably the most overrated movie of 2019.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
When you bring this movie out, can you introduce it as Joker?
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. I think people are kind of catching on to it now.
I hope so.
I've seen a lot of people are like, yeah, it's not as good. I think for a lot of people who are seeing Joker for the first time and they've never seen older movies, because I know a lot of people who haven't seen older movies because they're just really turned off by film style, because they're certainly aged to this day, even though plot quality doesn't entice them as much as kind of like the visual. There's certainly like a higher standard now of filming. Hence is why the point I'm making is that not many people have seen Taxi Driver.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy, but I watched Taxi Driver in prep for this movie.
Really?
And that was a few days prior to Joker, and Joker follows Taxi Driver's plot pretty beat for beat.
That's kind of ridiculous.
When you go and watch Taxi Driver, I hope the listener does, they're going to be like, oh wow, this is kind of just what Joker rips off of. And in a weird sense, the big irony is that Robert De Niro's in this movie as well. He played the main character of Taxi Driver. He played Travis Bickle, who is your Joker character. Travis is an ex-military who I believe was honorably discharged. He did his time in the military and he comes to New York City. And he's very lonely. That's one of the bigger plots of the film, is kind of a look inside man as just an individual. They call it the original incel movie because he behaves a lot like one. But he's very lonely. He's got no friends. He can't sleep. And to calm his mind, he works.
Right.
And that way we are introduced to his thoughts. He also keeps a journal just like Arthur Fleck, the Joker. He's not a comedian, but he has a real disdain for society, similar to Arthur Fleck. Kind of like
society, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I said the word.
I know.
I said the word.
Like, honestly, when I was watching the movie, I was watching it with some friends, and freaking, he goes, "Oh, we live in a society." At the end of the movie, I had the biggest eye roll I've ever had because I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society?
Oh my gosh.
And even though that was like the big like climax scene,
right?
Because everyone's like, "Oh no, is he gonna shoot himself like he bullied up?" Spoiler alert! Like, is he gonna shoot himself like believed he's going to? And then obviously he shoots De Niro.
Yeah.
And but he said society, and it killed the whole scene.
It really did.
Because I mean, it's tough because you can't really substitute any other word for it.
Yeah.
But I know Todd Phillips might not be on the wavelength when he wrote this movie.
Oh, this dude literally, like, he was, before the movie came out, he was like, "Oh, comedians are losing their careers because of woke culture," or some stupid thing like that. Like, this is coming from the dude who made Hangover movies.
Yeah, he's mad they wouldn't pick up Hangover 4.
Like, honestly, like, come on, man. Like, I was so scared for this movie for, like, a completely different reason,
Absolutely.
Right? I was scared because I thought it wasn't going to be comic accurate. I thought, because, you know, you see, like, baby Bruce Wayne, and I'm like, all right, that doesn't even make any sense. I'm seeing, like, the suit was weird. Like, I was confused.
Yeah, it's definitely, like... They should have just swapped the names around, pulled off the Gotham City name, just called it, I don't know, Central City or some generic crap, and pull off the Bruce Wayne name, and probably even pull off, I don't know, maybe you could have kept Joker and let DC have some royalties. That's true. It wouldn't have been Joker. It would have just been like, well, you know what, that's a lot like a Batman movie, but that's probably what they're talking about in the other dimensions.
Right,
So.
I was scared that it was going to be comic accurate. But then, you know, the comic accuracy didn't really matter. It was still, they did it well. But it's like the only thing that was well was Joaquin Phoenix's acting, and like that was it. Like everything else was just so stale. Yeah. Like especially like the dialogue. Like it was just mostly one-liners from Joker.
It is highly quotable loner. I'm 14 and this is deep
material. I know, right? Like,
and I heard a lot of people. I heard a really good meme, or I heard a good meme. I saw a good meme where it was like. Billie Eilish is what Joker is for boys, for girls. Like, this is the I'm 14, this is deep for boys, and then for girls it's Billie Eilish. I'm sorry, Billie.
It's really ridiculous. Like, I've seen all these people like, "Oh, I relate to Joker so much." I'm like, the dude was an incel. Yeah, exactly. Like, literally, I was so... Because everyone was, like, mad at the media saying, "Oh, this Joker might cause, like, some tragedy." But that was because, like, because what happened every time, like, a person, like, a fake or whatever, has, like, this... anti-society, people start to like think that that's them, and then they start like the V for Vendetta guy, right? Oh, yeah. People are like, "Oh, that's me," and then they try to like rob a bank, and they're just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Exactly.
So like,
burn the rich.
Yeah, I mean,
kill the Waynes.
Yeah, like golly.
And you gotta think that to some degree, this little kid Bruce Wayne is gonna grow up to be Batman afterwards. And that's part of my problem with you were talking about comic accuracy.
Right.
I'm a big comic book fan. And so naturally I went and saw this movie, and I probably would have either way. And I had a friend who hasn't read a comic book in his life. He came and saw it with me, and he's like, "Oh, is that like accurate? Is that how it happens?" And that's where my big gripe with the movie is the ending, is because they had a really ambitious ending and take on the Joker, and usually I'm a stickler for, it wasn't really accurate, but I've kind of come to be like, you know, it was good. It's an adaptation, so it's like they take liberties. But they killed the Waynes again.
Yeah,
and you know, I watched the TV show Gotham until it kind of got bad, and it's like, how do you make a show out of this? And I'm gonna get into a little bit of depth here to explain my standing. When Bruce Wayne's parents get gunned down in the alley, I think of that as like a perfectly random crime, as like, you know, wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly.
The shooter, whose name's Joe Chill for comic book fans out there. You know, he was depending on what writer you're writing, maybe he's just a guy down on his luck. You know, he had to do what he had to do. And that's why Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, is so that way he can make Gotham so safe that random crimes will never happen again. And he likes bats because he...
It's like terrified of him.
Yeah, if I don't know if you watch the Dark Knight trilogy. He fell down the well.
Yeah.
And but in the comic books, very iconic is I remember when he first comes back to Gotham as an adult.
Yeah.
And he tries fighting crime on the first night, and it all goes to crap, and he ends up like fatally wounded, and he almost dies. And there's a iconic scene where he's sitting in his like foyer or whatever, and he's speaking to a bust of his father, and he's like, "Father, send me a sign." And a bat crashes through the window and lands on his father's bust. And he's like, yes, I shall become a bat in this iconic sense.
That's dope.
And that's what Batman means to me is, he's trying to make Gotham so safe that random crimes never happen again. And by having Joker inspire so much lunacy and anarchy, and it's also nice you mentioned V for Vendetta, I'll get into that. But I feel like by having the clowns kill the Waynes, you'd think Batman would grow up to be Joker Man. Or
like, literally. Man. Like, that was, like, one of the other things I was scared about is that, like, back to, like, how people are going to relate to the Joker. Like, I was hoping so bad they'd go back to, like, the media thing. Because the only way people would, like, commit crimes in, like, the Joker's name is if they made Joker the good guy. And Todd Phillips, the director, he was like, I'm not going to make him a good guy. I'm just going to make him understandable. Yeah. That's already mistake number one, just saying that. Like, the Joker is not someone to be understood. He's the bad guy, and, like, that's it. Like, he doesn't even have, like, a backstory right now, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there are really 3 Jokers, right?
Oh, yeah. We're yet to see how that plays out, but that's a comic book thing where it's, like, alternate dimensions, and they're playing on that. I think by now we should have had that, but... the comic series Doomsday Clock's running too far. You heard about
I've heard about that. Yeah,
that book series started 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's starting to pick back up again, I think.
And the normal comic book release schedule is 1 issue or chapter, for those that don't read, drops once a month. So for a 12-issue series, it'd be 1 for each month of the year.
Yeah.
And now it's been well over 2 years, and finally we're getting to issue 12.
Right.
So it's been like almost triple the length of a normal release schedule, and then afterwards we're supposed to get the 3 Jokers story because it's about Watchmen. Because I love Watchmen. I didn't get to watch the HBO series because I was too afraid it was going to be bad.
Oh, really? I heard it was really good.
Yeah, it is really good from what I understand, and that's probably something we could get into later. And,
definitely.
It's just I was too afraid. After Game of Thrones.
Oh my!
I was like, we canceled our HBO subscription immediately after.
Really?
I should have watched Chernobyl at least, but I canceled after, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm paying for Watchmen. I don't know if I can.
I never watched Game of Thrones.
Oh well.
I never watched it.
The first 4 seasons are masterpieces.
Right.
They do so well with what little budget they had, and then they got all their budget, and then they're like, Todd, David, Benioff, D.B. Weiss and Dan Benioff, or whatever their names are. They're like, we are literal gods. And then Disney is like, yeah, come do Star Wars. And then they're like, okay, Game of Thrones is over.
Yep, like literally.
Exactly. Hit the brakes, 200 miles per hour.
Oh my gosh.
They go through the windshields because they're not wearing their seatbelts.
Right?
But Batman, also part of it, I did like they convoluted Joker's origin.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
And the canon origin for me, what I always considered was a book called The Killing Joke. And this all comes together because Killing Joke, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, all written by the same guy, Alan Moore, who I don't know where he lives, out in the middle of the desert somewhere.
Probably.
He went completely insane. He wrote an origin for the Joker in the, or he like revitalized the origin because it was there since like the 40s when Batman was created, and he like kind of rewrote it for a darker audience, I suppose, because finally, after many years, the Comics Code of Authority lifted their ban on what you could write in a comic book, and finally we were getting good comic books again. Yeah. And in that origin, the Joker was a failed comedian, and he had a wife. Was pregnant, couldn't pay the bills. He gets strong-armed into breaking into Ace Chemicals. He has to don the guise of the Red Hood, a mob boss, and his cronies who forced him into it get gunned down. Batman shows up under the belief the Red Hood has been one guy this whole time. Joker tries to escape. He falls into the vat of acid. And because of Batman's misunderstanding that he didn't take time to try and talk to Joker first, he created the Joker, and that was the ultimate yin and yang. Cause,
absolutely.
We've seen many times without Batman, the Joker just kind of reverts back into a normal person, or in The
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight Returns, he turns into a catatonic state,
Right.
which only gets lifted once The Dark Knight returns.
Right.
And that's sort of what more depth of the Batman.
I remember there was this I remember this is one comic book where it's like, oh, the Joker's actually a demon that comes like every 100 years. I'm like, what?
Stupid stuff.
Yeah, it's dumb. I mean, it's
classic comic books.
Honestly, like, yeah, the Joker movie was just such a big disappointment, especially because like
should have been a little more bold.
Yeah,
they could have gone for more ambitious.
They made him the good guy, and that's like the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. Like, literally, how could you make a good guy a whole incel? Like, the dude, a girl smiled at this man one time, and he followed her the rest of the day, and then lived like this imaginary fantasy where they're just like they're just banging and doing drugs and going to the hospital together.
Like, after one set, he makes the triple murder, and then he gets like super turned on.
Yeah.
He just shows up for a little piece
It's
of
just
the
like,
action.
I mean, it was cool how you find out like that nothing of that actually happened,
Mm-hmm.
but then like still it's kind of just like,
there's some,
how can you understand this?
There's some good depth there, I think, because at first I'm like, they don't really show that he's like straight up schizophrenic and he's seeing things, but then if you think about it, he went off his meds, and that's the scene where he gets in the fridge, and he's kind of slipping, and then the schizophrenic stuff happens, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's some cool layering. So there are some good parts of the movie.
No, definitely are.
Its depiction of violence, it's pretty rare when violence in movies gets to me. But this was pretty hard to watch in some scenes. When he goes down the three guys, I was like, wow, that was really brutal. Like, like the guy's running away, he shot him like twice. And the dude's like running screaming. Like, you didn't feel too bad because they kind of just jumped this sick guy for no reason after they were making fun of after they were taunting some girl.
Right.
And it's like, so you didn't feel too bad. But, and to speak more to Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker when he stabs that guy who shows up at his apartment.
Yeah.
Framed him.
Oh, yeah.
That guy had it coming too, and I think this scene really solidified him as a solid Joker performance.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he really captured the spirit well in terms of the classic Who's the Best Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's split, in a sense, between Ledger and Phoenix. I think Phoenix captured the spirit more of the insanity.
Yeah.
Like, he let the shorter guy live because he was nice to him. I'm like, yeah, that's something the Joker would probably do.
Yeah, because it's not funny.
Yeah, and Heath Ledger is better in the spirit, I guess, the yin to Batman's yang.
Absolutely.
And so that's why they're split.
Yeah, because you really can't have Joker without Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because, like, if you look at that movie in itself, the Joker's going to be, like, in his, like, 70s by the time Batman's, like, in his 30s.
Yeah. Beating up an old man.
Yeah, like, literally. It's not going to be that hard.
They're going to make a movie called Wayne about Batman who becomes a vigilante and he beats up boomers.
Like, baby Bruce could do that, like, right now. Like, I feel like that kid, just get him, like, a stick, and then you could probably just take out that guy right now.
And it was so weird. He, like, does this finger thing in the kid's mouth. And it was,
I was like, why are you touching this child?
It's like, what do you think this is funny, freak?
Oh, my God.
I want to see some love, Dad. Whack.
I mean, it was weird because, like, they're like, oh, Thomas Wayne is a fascist. And, like, I could see that. They just never really said how, right?
Then why does Bruce Wayne become a good guy if he's, like, wants to be like his father and be a good man?
Yeah.
And Thomas Wayne's a jerk, then what's the point of him becoming Batman?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have a dad anymore. It's not like he can learn anything. So.
How did little Bruce get home after the city was set on fire?
That's very true.
Like, originally it was just some little, like, oh... Yeah, I gotta tell you how bad I cringed because I love the little subtle detail of the mask of Zorro that they were went to go see.
Yeah.
That detail's always stayed the same, and that's also part of why Batman becomes a vigilante because his hero
like
Zorro.
Yeah.
And when I saw that happen, I'm like, oh god, they're killing the parents.
They're doing it.
And it's like, oh, it's happening. But
you can't have a Batman movie without having at least like one reference to his parents dying.
Yeah, Batman v Superman is off the bat with Zack Snyder's classic slow motion, and we get to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lowen Cullen get gunned down, and Zack Snyder loves The Dark Knight Returns because it's the iconic shot of, like, straight out of the comic books, like inch by inch. You see, like, the slow motion gun shooting back, the slide pulls back, and it rips the mother's jewels off. And it's like, oh no. And it's just...
Batman vs. Superman was also a nod. You know that Man-Bat was in that movie?
In Joker?
No, in Batman vs Superman.
No.
So remember how like he's like Bruce Wayne's having a like crazy dream.
Oh,
you seen that
yes.
black stuff come out the coffin, and then this huge bat. Like, apparently that was Man Bat. Like.
No, I thought it was weird. They used the same model from Batman Begins when he sprays Jonathan Crane with his own fear gas.
Oh yeah.
And they used that same model, which was so weird.
It was interesting.
I think that's pretty much my only beefs with Joker, and but to finish off Batman before I move on to the next thing. There's a lot of people talking about how Zack Snyder's a hack and he doesn't understand Batman.
Release the Snyder cut.
Apparently, there's some motion going on that.
Yeah,
there's actually a chance now.
I honestly hope it doesn't get cut because like the Justice League was not a good movie, and just because you have a separate cut, and
doesn't make it any
better. Doesn't make it any better. Just because Jason Momoa says, "Oh, it's really cool, man." I mean, the dude. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that dude didn't know who he was when he was recording Justice League.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you would have showed him who he actually was, like from a comic book, he's like, "I'm this guy."
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Aquaman itself was a great movie.
Actually, I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it?
Rare case in which I've not seen a movie. I actually didn't see Aquaman or Shazam because I was too busy for both.
I haven't watched Shazam, but I did watch Aquaman. Aquaman's actually a really, really good movie.
But the reason I didn't watch it was because the DC universe is the cinematic universe is really not in a good place now. So I just kind of left it. I'm like, one day I'm sure it'll come to Netflix Plus or DC Plus or DC Go or whatever is going to be this streaming service.
Yeah.
And but I think people say Snyder didn't understand Batman. I think people didn't understand The Dark Knight Returns as much. There's a lot of the Dark Knight Returns comic book in Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman. So much so, even the fight where Batman makes the suit of armor and he punches Superman. The Doomsday stuff wasn't in Dark Knight Returns, but Dark Knight Returns is actually a comic book masterpiece. I'm sure at some point I'll write a news article about it and then. A rant about Frank Miller, I guess. Frank Miller, quick little tidbit is he was a guy who made all the iconic, one of the few writers like Alan Moore who made iconic dark comic books in the 80s. Daredevil, for example, he wrote a book called The Man Without Fear and Born Again, which are two of Marvel's best volumes. And if you like that, if you like the Netflix series, that's what they're based on. Okay. That's what a lot of it's based on. And he wrote those. Then for DC, he wrote The Dark Knight Returns, which it also featured Batman using guns, which is part of Batman v Superman. Like, if you remember the scene where he's about to blowtorch the mom. Yeah. And he's like, I'll kill her. And he's like, believe me, I'll do it. And like he busts through a wall, he grabs the M60, shoots the guy. That's straight out of The Dark Knight Returns. Okay. Except for the stakes were a little different. It was a guy who was pointing a gun at a child. But I think it speaks to, sometimes, Batman's an old man. He can't... he was in his 50s in The Dark Knight Returns, which was part of the plot. And it speaks to, Batman's old. He can't... For a man who's capable of doing anything, some situations you just can't win. And that's why you gotta use a gun. And... that's that. Then quickly, I actually attribute Frank Miller losing his mind to 9/11. Really? Yeah. You can see it in his work. He wrote a sequel to The Dark Knight Returns called The Dark Knight Strikes Again. The Dark Knight Returns had an ending. It had an actual ending. Yeah. And he did that classic, Netflix needs a second season of Stranger Things, so let's expand the universe. And that's where The Dark Knight Strikes Again comes in. But Frank Miller did his own art, and for non-comic book readers, you shouldn't do your own art if you're a writer. And if you do the art, artists can make 6 out of 10 stories. Writers can make 4 out of 10 art. But that's why you always have a writer-artist team. He wrote and drew Dark Knight Strikes Again. It was awful. There was a straight up 9/11 ripoff scene where Batman crashes his Batwing into Lex Luthor's tower, and then he says, "Striking terror, best part of the job." And what? And then he tried to write a book for DC called The Holy Terror, which was originally supposed to be the Holy Terror Batman, classic Burt Ward. And that story was about jihadists and their Illuminati underground, and Batman was going to use guns and shoot him. And DC's like, yeah, there's no way in hell we're publishing that.
I'm glad. I'm very glad.
Instead, he just changed all the names to all the characters, and then he published it himself.
Oh, okay.
And Holy Terror, you can still buy it.
No.
It's off, and he did the art for that too. So if you like crappy artwork, you can go read that.
That's great.
And furthermore, he just keeps writing sequels to all these books nobody wants, and that's that.
Speaking of Batman, how are you feeling about the casting to the new Batman movie coming out with Matt Reeves?
I was scared until I saw The Lighthouse, and now I'm like, wow.
Yes, let's talk about The Lighthouse, because I have literally no idea, because that's a movie. That's a movie that came out recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it all in black and white?
Yes.
Okay, so that's that. I know that it's directed by Martin Scorsese, right?
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers. Okay. And the only thing I know besides the fact that it's black and white is that apparently there's some really trippy like mermaid sex scene.
Oh yes.
What?
Okay, I'll describe the beginning of the movie.
What we got here?
This movie takes off. So you have the lighthouse. In the first 10 minutes, a boat lands on shore. Yep. The whole lighthouse. It's a lighthouse and a small cottage that connects, and there's a shed full of food and an emergency boat, which does not come in handy. And it's a very small plot of land. It's just it's like a big rock. There's no grass. There's nothing. There's no trees. There's nothing. Robert Pattinson lands and Willem Dafoe, and I'm going to speak to these characters pretty much strictly by their actor name, because we come to find out. There's a theory that they are both the same person. That one is the younger and one is the older, and it's a big cycle movie. Okay. I don't believe in that as much, but furthermore, it's revealed they both have the same name. Well, not last name, but they're both named Thomas. And it's great I get to finally spoil this movie. No one else will speak to this. Speak about this. And they land on shore, and the guys who were at the lighthouse, they pack up their stuff, and they help Pattinson and Dafoe pack up unpack their things. We don't even see them, their faces, but we see like a lot of shifting bodies. It's just 4 dudes. Finally, they get on their boat. They take off. They're like, "Good luck, gentlemen." Pattinson and Dafoe, and ground rules. So Dafoe is the senior, and he works the night shift while sleeping during the day, and Pattinson does the opposite. He works during the day, he sleeps at night. And Pattinson's not allowed in the lighthouse itself. Okay. He's not allowed to the upper chamber, but he has to like shovel coals into there to keep the thing running. Right. And so he does the slave work while Dafoe pretty much sleeps. I think he makes dinner as well. Okay. Because that's when the two are both awake at the same time, except for when Pattinson is awake at night, which happens multiple times. Got it. Immediately, Pattinson unspools his cot. Inside, there's a hole to the cot. Okay. And he reaches in and he pulls out a mermaid statue of the person who was left, who was there before him. Okay. I believe Dafoe also did a 4-week shift. They're there for 4 weeks. Yeah. And Defoe's on his new shift, and I'm going to put my hand on fiddling with my hair. Go ahead, dog. And so, anyway, they have dinner. I don't remember if Dafoe at some point speaks, but we come to find out the guy who was Defoe's partner beforehand, before Pattinson, believed that there was enchantment in the light, quote for quote, verbatim. And he went insane, and he's dead now. They don't say how he died. I think maybe he cast himself from the top of the tower, or maybe he was killed. Great. And anyway, he's like, you're not getting into the top of that lighthouse. I'm just telling you off the bat. Don't ask, because it's not happening. Okay. So, in the night, Pattinson gets up, and he takes a walk around shore. We're getting the lay of the land. And he goes to the shore side to pick seashells by the seashore. I'm just kidding. And he goes to the tides, and he sees logs coming in. Okay. Like wooden logs. There's no wood anywhere on the side. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. How is like trees going to come from the bottom of the ocean? Yeah, the only wood is the cottage. Right. But these are straight up logs. He sees logs coming in, and he starts walking down the beach, and he just keeps walking, and it's like shot of what he sees, reverse shot, we see his face. And the more times we see him, the water gets higher. He's walking furthermore into the water. Okay. And we see logs. Logs are coming in. We see his face. He's, maybe knee length. Yeah. We look back. Past the logs, there's a body floating out in the water. We look back at Pattinson. He's like maybe shoulder length. keeps walking. Eventually, his head dunks under the water, and he sees a mermaid swimming towards the shore at him. And it's clear, it's perfect, it's very obvious it's a mermaid. And it screeches at him, and then, bam, next morning. And it's like, I think a drop of water hit him in the face, and he woke up, and Defoe in his sleep mumbles, he's like, today you need to reshingle the roof.
Okay.
And so while he's reshingling the roof, this is part of the crazy stuff. I'm working to the mermaid thing because it's important that we understand the context of the things that are happening thus far.
Yeah.
So on the second day, he's reshingling the roof, and he pulls off a shingle, and there's a hole that leads to where he was sleeping. He can see into the bedroom.
Yeah.
And Defoe's sleeping, but he's not sleeping in his own bed. He's in Pattinson's bed, and he's going to town on the bed. There's a lot of like weird sex, and he's like, there's a hole in the bed, remind you, where the mermaid came from. And there's this haunting shot of just Pattinson's eye as he like looks in and sees what's happening. But obviously you can't call him. What are you gonna do? Call Defoe out on this? Like your two guys, they're like, there's no way off this island, like on your own. And he's the senior lieutenant or a lieutenant or however, because they're English. And he also keeps a logbook of things that happen on the island and whether or not to dock Pattinson's wages. So he doesn't make mention of it, and he does his chores. And the next big thing that happens in the plot is there's this one-eyed seagull that taunts him.
Yeah.
And he keeps trying to get the seagull to leave him alone, but the seagull won't leave him alone. And eventually,
is the seagull talking like a human, or is it just honking at him?
Just squealing at him.
Oh, okay.
And Pattinson, to get the seagull to leave, like throws a rock at it or whatever, because he won't. Like he's adamant and staying still. Mm-hmm. And Defoe sees this, and he tells him in the night, he's like, "Bad luck to kill a seabird. In them's the souls of those that have died, seamen that died working or whatever, men that died prior. So seagulls are the souls of men who have died at sea."
Okay.
And that's where the big end of Act 1 comes in, because one day Pattinson's trying to get a scoop of water by, he's got a hand pump, and instead of water, like blood shoots out of the faucet.
Ooh.
So he goes to check the well, and inside's a dead seagull. But, not dead. The thing is splattered inside, and its head is still alive, and it squeals back at him. Defoe looks up from the well. The one-eyed seagull's back, honking at him.
Wait, Defoe looks up, or is it Pattinson?
Pattinson went to check it out, because Pattinson's the...
he's the one being
He's the patsy. Whenever there's work to be done, he patsies it off on... Defoe patsies it off on Pattinson. Gotcha. And the seagull jumps Pattinson, and this is... he gets jumped. He looks up, the seagull's looking back at him, and Pattinson's like, "Oh, not now." The seagull straight up attacks him.
That's fantastic.
And he grabs the bird by its neck and just whack, 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 whack for like a whole 30 seconds. Whacks the bird. Easily could have like skinned the thing. There was like hardly anything left. Ooh. Like obliterated the seagull. I'm sorry, I keep saying seabird because that's what Defoe refers to it as.
Yeah.
And immediately after, camera pans up to the lighthouse, and we see the north, south, east, west. Wind starts blowing in a different direction.
Okay.
And it's just like that night, storm kicks in, and for the rest of the movie, always storming. Okay. So, plot leads me to believe that him killing the bird that Defoe said was bad luck was that. And now they're stuck in a storm. They're starting to run low on supplies, no big deal, because their 4 weeks is almost up. Yeah. Finally, 2 weeks in, halfway through, we learn that Pattinson's name is Ephraim Winslow. Okay. And he's like, "I'd prefer it if you called me by my name, Senior Defoe," whose name's Thomas Wake, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we learned that until week 3. Finally, week 4 comes in. And, they're having drinks because they're celebrating. Right. And Defoe's like, "Okay, we need to keep this place tidy for the next people that come in tomorrow because the boat's coming in." And he's like, "You need to clear..." Here it comes. He's like, "You need to empty the poop buckets." Uh-oh. Yeah, Pattinson gets the crappy work.
Oh, come on.
I wasn't intending that, but I'll take credit for it.
Yes, you were.
And this is where, Pattinson's life sucks. He does the crappy work.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say it again. But he comes to the side of the shore, dumps the poop bucket, he throws it into the air, wind blows it back in his face.
Oh,
and he's walking back, he's carrying the rocks, he's constantly with the wheelbarrow on the rocks. And there's a shot where it just kind of shows the whole island from him going to point A to point B, holding the wheelbarrow. And we see in the background, something washed up on shore.
Okay.
And out of the corner of his eye, he sees it, puts the thing down, runs to it, and it's a net, and it's got like all these sorts of seaweeds and stuff. Undoes it, mermaid.
There's the mermaid.
And this is where like part of the shock value comes in, because he like sees the camera starts on her face, and she's out cold, and like camera pans down, and it's like, oh, it's a woman. How do we know it's a woman? Because she's got breasts. And he's feeling her up, and we look down more, and we start to see the scales. Then reverse shot, Pattinson's horrified.
Right.
Shot back down, mermaid wakes up, starts shrieking in his face.
Golly.
And then the storm and the lighthouse, because the lighthouse all the time is just with this loud horn.
Yep.
And Pattinson, like, throws himself off, runs back to the wheelbarrow, and he, like, yells into the air, like, I don't even know, like Shawshank Redemption, like screams into the air. We can't even hear him scream because it's washed out by the sounds of the background. Then he appears in the doorway of the cottage, clearly terrified. Defoe's like, oh, you look like you've seen a ghost. Pattinson doesn't speak of it. And that night, they get completely trashed. Pattinson's seen enough. He's ready to be done. He gets trashed. And he doesn't like to drink, but he gets absolutely annihilated.
Right.
And they wake up the next day, boat didn't come.
Uh-oh.
This is where Act 3 comes in.
Okay.
They're already short on supplies because they were eating pretty well. They're like, who cares? We already had a surplus. We'll be fine. Boat didn't come because of the weather, obviously. Pattinson killed the gold. The boat didn't come. Or maybe other plot threads. And that's part of my gripe. I feel that, we finally got to see the mermaid. And that's the last time we see the mermaid, by the way.
Okay.
Or officially.
Okay.
And at night, Pattinson constantly goes up to the top of the lighthouse where Defoe spends his nights. Defoe's up during the night, but we never see him do any work. He's always up there in the lighthouse itself where the light is spinning. And he goes up there, he strips down naked, and he just, like, drinks and he stares into the light bulb.
Okay.
And there's one scene in which Pattinson climbs to the top and he tries to, like... He's standing underneath Defoe. We see he's clearly naked. And... trigger warning. We see a strange ooze come down from above. And is it what I think it is? Maybe. He looks down, looks back up. There's like a tentacle in there inside the lighthouse chamber.
Wait.
Yeah, and it goes away. Pattinson freaks out. I've seen too much. Goes to bed. So by now, this is part of where I kind of deducted a point. I rated this movie 9 out of 10 if you read it, because a lot of crazy stuff happens, and it's pretty consistent. And then we're about 45 minutes of pretty much drinking and subtler things. And this is where the eeriness comes in, because they get annihilated, and so all they have left is drinks. Defoe had a secret chamber where he was. He kept all his booze. He kept an extra surplus of booze, and that's all they're doing is drinking. They got no food, and they just drink for fun.
I feel it.
And so there's actually a great scene I love where part of the tension starts to begin, in which Pattinson says, "I don't like your cooking," and this is where the resentment comes in. He's like, "You're cooking so awful. I hate it." And he's like, "What I would give to have a good steak." And Defoe, worthy of an Oscar for this scene, he gets up, throws a bottle at Defoe's feet, and he's like, "Damn ye!" He's like, "Let Neptune strike ye, dead Winslow!" and he starts screaming, and he places this old 19th century boomer curse on Pattinson.
What in the world?
And he has a 5-minute monologue of ye old curse, and this comes into the ending. They drink for a long time. The big tension at the end is when they finally they snap and they just straight up assault each other.
Oh, okay.
And but there's a great scene I love in which Pattinson decides he's had enough. He tries to take the boat for himself. He's like, I'm just taking my chances. He runs to the shed. He starts dragging the boat out to sea.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's raining so hard you can't even hear anything. You can barely hear the light. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can hear the lighthouse. It's been a while since I saw the movie. But in the background, it's a nice little tracking shot of from the front of the boat. We see Pattinson pushing from behind, and he's pushing, and the door of the shack flies open behind him, and Defoe's brandishing an axe, and he like rushes him, and he like screams, "Don't leave me!" And he starts hacking up the boat, and now the boat's worthless. Now they can't get out, and then he starts rushing Pattinson. Pattinson bum rushes back to the cottage. Defoe is like cackling like a maniac, like The Shining. He has a limp, by the way. And he's like swinging the axe in the air like a madman, kicks the door open, screaming at Pattinson, inaudible, slams the axe down on the table, and they take it to the next room. And Pattinson's trying to have a smoke, and they're trying to calm down. And
wait. So the dude comes in with an axe.
Yeah.
Smashes the table.
Yeah.
And then takes him to the next room.
Yeah, Pattinson backs up trying to calm him down. Okay. And he like sits in the next room. He's like, all right. He's like, I'll behave. And,
okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant taking it. I thought they were just about to fight. Yeah, no, I was thought they were just about to like bone in the next room. Like that's what I thought you were saying. Well, what kind of movie is this?
Great that you mentioned that. So he calms him down, and what I love about this scene is so Defoe clearly swung the axe.
Yeah.
We saw Defoe swing the axe, and Pattinson try to leave, and so Defoe says to Pattinson, he's like, "You've lost your goddamn mind." He's like, "Why'd you swing the axe at me?" And it's like, he turned it around. He said, "Pattinson, why did you swing the axe on me?" Yeah. Like, we clearly saw who swung the axe. And part of the theme is, you can't believe what you see. They in the beginning, they say, being drunk staves off madness. Right. So in scenes where they're sober could be summed up as they're mad. Scenes where they're drunk could be summed up as they're drunk. That's and naturally, they only get more and more drunk. The storm just keeps thrashing the island. Eventually, there's a scene where they drink like madmen. They even drink kerosene at a point. They spike kerosene with honey or perhaps other fluids, and they drink it, and they go quite mad. And there's a scene where they dance together. They almost kiss, and they resent each other. They fist fight, and they keep drinking. It's a lot of that. They drink, they fight, they sleep. And finally, the climax. Okay. So, morning after, the worst storm had just straight up obliterated the cottage. There's just crap, like scummy water everywhere. It's up to their ankles in the cottage. And so, finally, an armoire that Pattinson was trying to get into has busted open. Okay. Where Defoe kept his logbook and he kept the keys to the lighthouse antechamber. And he gets a look at it, and he sees all throughout the book, Defoe had just been blackening Pattinson's name. And furthermore, we learned that if you saw from the trailer, "Why'd you spill your beans?" was a common quote of the movie. Because they got annihilated. Again, a lot of the movies, they got annihilated. They got completely drunk. And there's a little comedy scene where Defoe is on Pattinson's lap. Like, his head's on his lap, and they're both drunk. They can hardly stand. And Pattinson says, "I'm Tom." And Defoe's like, "No, I'm Tom. No, I'm Tom.
No, I'm Dirty Dan."
Yeah, except for we learn Pattinson's real name was Thomas. And through context clues, we learn that he used to be a foreman. At the very beginning, actually, Defoe's like, "So, why'd you want to come work at the lighthouse?" And Pattinson's like, "Oh, I didn't like my old work as a lumberman." That's where the logs came in. And he's like, "Yeah, there was an accident at the work site, and my foreman, who was a real asshole, died. And I never really liked the work, so I came here." And the context clues, Pattinson either directly killed or is responsible for the death of his foreman. Yeah. His foreman's name, Ephraim Winslow. So he killed him. He's responsible for the guy's death, takes his name. So part of that. And Defoe also suggests, how long have we been here? 4 weeks or 2 days?
Interesting.
And he's like, "How do we know that we're both not the same person? How do we know that it's all not in your head, Pattinson, and you're just a raving lunatic frolicking through the daisies right now?" Right. And this all builds to the end. Finally, Pattinson gets a hold of the logbook, and he looks at his blackened name, and Defoe keeps writing, belligerent, constantly drinking. Even though Defoe instigated all the drinking, it's like, here, have a drink. Oh, why are you drinking? And he's like, dock wages, dock wages, dock wages, dock wages. He's not going to make any money by the time he gets back.
Yeah.
And finally, the two of them just have had enough of each other. And I remember Pattinson's like breaking down, like he's standing tall, but he's like crying. He he can't like handle his emotions. And Defoe pushes him too far, and they start strangling each other. And Defoe takes it to the ground, and Pattinson puts him on the ground. This is finally, after a long while, the supernatural kicks back.
And then they bone.
Almost. So Pattinson is strangling Defoe on the ground. He's on top of him. He's strangling him.
Right.
Defoe is struggling for his life.
Yeah.
And it's like upwards, downward shot of Defoe's face, Pattinson's face. Mm-hmm. And Defoe puts his hands up to Pattinson's face to try and shove him off. Pattinson won't let him go. Like, he's a young man and Defoe's a cripple. So there's no way that he's winning this fight.
Yeah.
And so we look down at Defoe, then look back at Winslow, and it's a woman's hands now. Uh-oh. And it starts like getting seductive with his face, and Pattinson starts lightening up. Look back down, strangling a mermaid. Look back up, a tentacle starts to wrap around his throat and starts pulling him off. And look back down, Defoe, but as like a merman. He's got scales and all these crustaceans, and Pattinson starts straddle punching the crap out of him. And tentacle comes off, he gets up, Defoe's back to normal. Okay. And a very weird Pulp Fiction-like scene where the entire time Defoe had been degrading Pattinson by calling him dog. Mm-hmm. And Pattinson's like, I want you to bark like a dog. And he's like, I want you to do it more more authentically, not seductively. Mm-hmm. And Defoe's barking, he's got nothing left to do. He's had his ass beat to this point. And cut to new scene, where out in the open of the cottage, and Pattinson has Defoe by a dog leash. Like, he makeshifted a leash, and he's making him crawl. They go to where they dug up all the alcohol at the base of the lighthouse. Yeah. He throws him in, and he starts burying him alive.
Oh my god.
And I've heard people say that apparently there were weird markings to suggest that Pattinson had, in between him making him bark and him being on the leash, there may have been a rape. Mm. I didn't see it that way. Okay. Oh, yes. The mermaid sex scene. I realize I've had such a tangent that I've forgotten what you meant.
I was thinking, like, because there was like 2 times during that tangent that I'm thinking, okay, the mermaid sex scene happened here. But I'm like, oh, no, wait, it happened here.
There's a lot of pent-up sexual aggression. Yeah. And Pattinson tries, not a lot of entertainment on this island. He tries to pleasure himself because there's not much else to do. Right. So he's jerking off to the doll.
The statue?
The statue of the Little Mermaid, the little whittled doll.
Oh, man.
And he's trying to jerk off, and he's having some problems. But not only do we see him doing that, and we see in his mind, we see like the mermaid, and in his mind he's reliving the memory of him touching the mermaid. Oh. But then it goes a step further. He's looking at, trigger warning, mermaid vagina. Uh-oh. Then, furthermore, camera pans out, he's going to town on her. And then we see him finish, and he's not too thrilled with himself, to say the least. And
do you hear people screaming right now?
There's I don't know. I hear a horn going.
Yeah, I heard a horn. I heard someone like yelling. Hold up. Hold up.
We're sorry. There's a violent murder occurring outside.
Yeah, it better be. Wait, I see a jeep. I don't see any people though.
No.
Huh. Well, anyway, back to mermaid sex.
Anyway, end of the movie. Here we are. Finally, Pattinson has gotten what he desired. He tried to pick the lock of the antechamber of the lighthouse. Didn't work. And finally, Defoe, without any sort of recourse, he's like, fine, I'll take you to the inside of the lighthouse. Just let me live. And Pattinson's like, we are well past that at this point. Yanks the key off him because he almost forgot. He was so caught up in burying this man alive. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame because Defoe does such a good job doing the voice for this old sailor man. But on top of that, him getting buried in dirt in his mouth and we can barely hear. I needed the script to read. Yeah. But he curses him again. Okay. And I think the key word here was, your punishment will be downright Promethean. Finishes burying him. Takes the key, goes inside, has a swig because he is Pattinson's absolutely tired. And as he's taking a drink, he puts the kettle down and door flies open to the cottage. Defoe has got the axe again, screaming, the light's mine! And he, like, swings the axe, hits Pattinson in the shoulder.
Oh.
Pattinson doesn't flinch, grabs the kettle, right hook, hits Defoe in the face, knocks him out cold, and pulls that axe out with one swing right into Defoe's skull. Defoe's dead.
Goodness.
Then he takes the key. He crawls up to the top of the lighthouse, which was a great effort. He's exerted a lot of energy today. Mm-hmm. And he gets to the core of the lighthouse. And this is where it gets very confusing. Because we see the inside of the lighthouse. Yeah. The whole shot is left to right, the very tippy core of the lighthouse. And the little 6 cylinders of light, if you know how like a lighthouse works, it's a very common lighthouse. Yeah. It's spinning. And then we see the hatch kind of slowly raise. And climbing up is Pattinson. He climbs up. He looks directly at the light. And the core of the light stops spinning on its own. Okay. Then a trapdoor in the light opens up. And we see we don't see, but we see Pattinson sees the inside of the light in the lighthouse. Yeah. And we see from the perspective of inside the lighthouse looking outward towards Pattinson. Yeah. He reaches in, like, past the camera, and, like, noise and bass starts playing very loudly. Mm-hmm. Like, because the horn, and it's a very tight space. Yeah. And Pattinson starts, like, he has, I don't even know, it's been debated furthermore if he has some sort of, like, nirvana. He reaches, like, a pure euphoric moment in grabbing this light, which we don't know what it is, and we don't find out. I can only imagine it must have been flame. Okay. And my theory is that it was flame because, you know, I never saw The Witch, but I heard that it followed similar themes. And, you know, Defoe was naked in there, and it was probably warm in there because it's a very cold island. It's just crappy shore weather. Yeah. And I imagine it was warmth that he was after. He grabs the light. He probably stuck his hand in a fire, but he's mixed with euphoria meets, like, my hand's on fire. And he tries to hold on as much as possible, and he starts, like, screaming, like, terror meets pure glee, pure insanity in its finest. And then, like, he's screaming so loud that it's all, like, bass boosted, and that's all you can hear is the bass of his screams. And he blacks out, falls down the ladder, falls down every step of the lighthouse. Hits the ground, fade to black. Then fade back, and Pattinson is on the shore. Nothing in the background. No lighthouse, no cottage, no nothing. He's just on the shore. He's naked. He's laying on his back. He has his guts are strapped out. Ooh. He's got the one-eyed seagull's back pecking him at the guts. Oh, he leans up. His eye's missing as well. A second seagull with both eyes starts pecking him, and he starts laughing maniacally, and bam, credits roll. The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Rodriguez.
So, all right, so what I've gotten from all of this is that The Lighthouse was just another Joker movie.
Really?
No, but that's crazy. What were you going to say?
Part of what I think the one-eyed seagull represents, he also he found the body of the guy who was there last.
Oh, he did? Okay.
He pulled up, because they were trying to fish for lobster. They only caught one lobster the whole time with lobster traps on the shore. But he pulls up a lobster trap. He finds a severed head in it with missing an eye, missing his left eye, which is the same eye that the seabird was missing, because it's the reincarnated soul. So I thought maybe that was him trying to warn him, or maybe inspire, hey, you should go look for the light. But that's part of, you know, it's all the moving pieces. So maybe the whole thing was in his head, like Defoe suggested. Maybe the curse came true. Remember, if you know your Prometheus lore, he stole the light, and when he wasn't supposed to, he went to Olympus, and his guts were forced to be eaten by the crows or the vultures or whatever for eternity. And that's The Lighthouse, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I think it was a lot more ambitious than a lot of what's...
oh, definitely.
Didn't need to see the mermaid thing.
Yeah, that was...
Didn't need to see the sex scene. That sounds weird. I wish they would have doubled down a little more, because this is the closest thing we're getting to a pure Lovecraft movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And I wish they would have doubled down a little better, because usually with Lovecraft, they kind of drown you in the whole... Oh, there's things and people weren't meant to see, and they go insane.
Yeah, I remember there was this one, I think it was a YouTube group, Funhouse, when they were playing a Lovecraft like.
Oh yeah.
And he was like describing like how Lovecraft monsters are, and it's like, okay, imagine like the scariest thing you've ever seen. But when you look at it, I can't tell you. I'll just go crazy. Like
imagine a big squid that if you see him, you go insane and the end of the world.
Yeah, you can't look at it, you can't describe it, or you just die. Like,
yeah, and I wish they would have done a little more, not too much, because it's usually drowned and that's H.P. Lovecraft. For a lot of those that don't know, there's a lot of weird racist undertones of.
Oh
H.P.
yeah,
Lovecraft.
like literally, the dude was so racist. Like other racists would come to his house asking him to stop being so racist.
You know, the fish-headed people and the monkey people were a little dark.
Yeah. He was a writer. For people who don't know, H.P. Lovecraft was a writer, famous writer who like wrote a lot of scary stories and kind of went into like the theological pinpoint.
I feel like that's like, if it weren't as racist, people would probably be like Scientologists with it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's probably what Scientology is.
I mean, that's probably because Scientology is literally like believing that like alien. It's literally aliens.
Yeah. We descended from Xenu.
Yeah, and like aliens threw down a meteor and like, yo, we need to beat up these alien spirits.
I like Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne balances Lovecraft pretty well.
Really?
Because it introduces a higher beings, kind of like aliens.
Okay.
But they're very sentient, but they can be killed. They're immortal, but they bleed, therefore they can die.
Alright, cool.
And Bloodborne's cool.
I've never played Bloodborne. I know it's out for the Switch now, and that's what I have, so I might have to get that.
Bloodborne's cool. I hate people for being like, if it's like Dark Souls, it's not good. You know, like,
that almost happened with Sekiro.
I'm a Dark Souls vet. I was a Dark Souls vet before it was a meme, and so naturally to kind of have it like blaspheme. Like Dark Souls used to be super underrated. When Dark Souls 2 was announced and to be released in 2012, Xbox gave out Dark Souls 1 for free for Games with Gold for summer of 2012, and that's when I played it for the first time. I'm like, this game's hard and it sucks, and I was really pissed off and I couldn't beat it. And then I'm so glad I went back and I finished it. And then Dark Souls 3 came out 5 years ago. And now we had Sekiro this year. We're very fortunate. Next year we're getting Elden Ring, which is teamed up with George Martin.
I hope that comes out for the Switch. I doubt it's going to be, but I hope it comes out for the Switch.
Yeah, you know, Miyazaki meets George Martin. It's nice to see George Martin finish a story for once. Yeah, there's that. I'd like, real quick, to do...
it was good.
We spoke about V for Vendetta earlier.
Did. Let's talk about that.
And how people...
I've actually never watched that movie.
It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy the book more.
Okay.
I
knew there was a book.
It's tough because book is pure... It's very inspired from 1984. Okay. If you've read 1984.
I have not.
I would highly recommend 1984. I would highly recommend 1984. It's a very short book. I would also skip the part about... there's a part where you read a book inside a book for like a solid 30 pages. Mm-hmm. It's called the Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein, which is a fictional character inside the book.
Every word you just said, I think I have like a mini heart attack each time.
But that's a part you can skip in the book without fear. It's like the main character reads a textbook and we truly enter his perspective. But 1984 is about fascism, and V for Vendetta is also about fascism.
Great.
The movie is also about fascism, but it's to be relevant because the movie was made in 2006. I think replace a lot of British Parliament with George Bush economics. The movie's like, I didn't like George Bush, so he's going to be the inspiration for the adaptation, the basis for the adaptation.
Like Kanye, like George Bush doesn't care about black people. Like,
George Bush don't care about black people. We need to reach out to victims of Hurricane Katrina. George Bush does not care about black people. And I think a lot of people, what they miss about the point of V for Vendetta, the book, I don't know, you never saw the movies, you never read the book.
I know enough about it.
I'll say this without spoiling it.
What's good?
So, both movie and book deal with fascism.
Yes.
The difference in the ending is anarchy is the solution to both problems. Well, the movie's more of like super
anarchy.
Socialism.
Before
the anarchy.
Right.
It's fascist, but it's clearly bathed in the undertones of like socialism or communism or whatever. And the solution both movie and book present is anarchy.
Okay.
Which is true, but the book presents it as the lesser of two evils.
Okay.
Because you can't overthrow, in the lore of both, World War III, and then an Aryan group, an Aryan nationalist group called Norsefire, came in and purified what was left of the nuclear fallout.
Okay.
And they set up camp in England, and that's what V for Vendetta starts in 1984, and most people are usually white. And V is a victim of the purification. We don't ever see his true identity, but we know he was stuck in one of their concentration camps, so he has enough. That's where his name comes from, V for 5 in Roman numerals.
Oh, okay.
Because his cell, he was an experimental victim in like these Nazi-ish prison camps, because they did like experiments on people. He was the man in room 5.
Okay.
But they were Roman numerals, so he had I.
Got it.
His room was V.
V, yeah.
So he became V.
Okay.
And we never see his face. All we know is he is a man.
Okay.
And we also know he has schizophrenic tendencies. But he's a good person, I guess, to the core. He knows right from wrong, I suppose, as well as a schizo would. Yeah. I'm sorry. You know what? If you suffer from mental illness, I didn't mean it like that.
I said yes so quickly to that. It hit me like a second after.
Man. In that context, and I think the movie presents it. It glorifies anarchy, and I think that's part of the problem. But the book presents it as like, yeah, anarchy sucks. At the end of the book, the city's on fire. There's no one left to take charge. Yeah. And it's like, fend for yourself. It's the Wild West all over again. But it's better than being ruled by Nazis. So that's the movie. I can't say they're wrong. And then you have Joker. We were talking about how they glorify a psychopath. I follow a lot of people who do movie stuff on Instagram, and someone rifled off top 10 movie psychopaths. Right. And they put both Heath Ledger and Joaquin Joker on there, which is such a cop-out, I think.
Honestly,
that's too obvious. Like, that's too, like, cashing in. And, yeah, I do agree that, Arthur Fleck exhibits psychopathic tendencies, but to, like, make him a hero character? Yeah, is ridiculous. I recently saw also American Psycho, which... it's more of a comical take on a protagonist that's psychotic. Nothing Patrick Bateman does is condonable in any sense. Yeah. And it's just humorful to watch him more. Because, like, there's a scene where everyone's sort of, like, having a pissing contest, looking at their cards, their little business cards. And he comes in to flex his new cards, and he immediately gets upstaged by someone else. And in his internal monologue, he's like, I cannot believe that they like their card over mine. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's just silly stuff like that. And I remember there's a scene where he commits a murder, and he tries to cover up the body by going to the guy's house, and he like sets it up as if to make him disappear. And he goes, he's like, a quick feeling of terror washes over me as I see this guy had a better apartment than I did. Oh, come on. He's afraid that, not that he's going to get caught, but the guy had a nicer apartment. And that's just silly stuff like that. And but that's obviously more exaggerated psychopathy. They make Patrick Bateman as like a perfect psychopath because he's like untouchable in a sense. He's so rich and he can get away with a lot, and that's part of the movie. Yeah. All right, but with that, it's within an hour. Thank you, Gene. Thank you for being. We're talking about movies. Welcome. Thank you for the Moviecast. Yes. This was fun. Yes. Do you have anything you want to promote? One thing you want to say? Any social media? No. As aforementioned, it's tough right now. I gotta decide where I want to set my basis up in social media. But if I do, I'll be sure to alert you to it, and then maybe if you're so kind, you'll plug me when that's ready. Yeah, because it'll probably be in the bio then. If you wanna, I'll have my address upload the bio. Yeah, this is fun though. Yeah. There's always more movies, so. Of course, yeah. I might definitely get you back up on this. I'll definitely come back whenever you want me. So this was all fun. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see y'all later.